Hey there, I'm srcmake and welcome to the tutorial on installing Actian Vector locally on our own computer. We're going to load some data into our newly installed vector database, and then we are going to query the data that we just loaded in. So this is a very hands-on video. You're going to see me do everything on the computer screen, so don't pause. Make sure you try to follow along. But if you don't want to follow along and you just want to read these instructions yourself, go ahead and click the link to this webpage below in the description box, and while you're down there, hit the like button and the subscribe button for this YouTube channel. Thanks. Now this is a part of a series of videos, so if you don't watch the first video where we got started on this series, try to do that. There'll be, again, a link below this video. But again, in this video, what we are going to do is I'm going to configure an Ubuntu 16 virtual machine. That's what we are going to target in this video. We're going to install Actian Vector. We are going to download and unzip a dataset. We're going to load the dataset into Actian Vector, and then we are going to query the database from the command line using the, just some standard SQL. So again, this is really hands-on, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that I'm going to say is I'm going to do this in a virtual machine, and we're going to do this using Linux, Ubuntu 16.04. Of course, you can do this for Windows too if you want, but I just like working in virtual machines, so that's what we're going to do. So I've got a virtual box right here, and I'm going to create a new virtual machine. I'm just going to show you the intro, and then I'm going to do the rest off screen. So let's call this Actian local, and let's call it Ubuntu. So you can see Linux, Ubuntu. Let's give it 4 gigs of RAM. And the last thing that we're going to do is we are going to give it, this is a big data set that we're working with, so I'm going to give it 160 gigabytes of space, which I have. And just to make sure that that works, let's do that in our VirtualBox hard drive folder. So great. So this should be enough, 160 gigabytes. Again, this is big data that we're working with just to test it out. If you don't want to do as much, then, feel free not to. But so that's it. I'm going to then start this virtual machine, and you're going to see that the ISO that I'm going to use is not Windows 10, but Ubuntu 16.04.3 desktop AMD 64. This is the way I'm going to set up my virtual machine. You can do yours any way you want, but as long as it's Ubuntu or whatever. So I'm going to get started with this, and I'm going to do this off screen. I'm just going to set it up. We are going to install Vector together from a fresh Ubuntu machine after this. So I'm going to pause the video right now, and then we are going to do the installation together. So pause. Okay, so I installed Ubuntu, it's just clicking through screens, and I opened Firefox, and I've got the website open that we are using. So the next thing we need to do is install Actian Vector on our fresh Ubuntu machine. We're doing everything together. So you go to the downloads page, and hopefully I don't block anything, with the webcam, but we'll try to do everything together. So you'll see there's this download request form right here. We are going to enter our information. They are cool with me entering wrong information, but you should enter correct information. So just name, email address, company. Say we're not a robot, we're not. We're actually real people. You click the submit button, and we are trying to download the community edition, by the way, just to install Vector. It's easier than using the command line. So we want to install for Linux server. We are going to do this right here, Linux 64 database. We're going to save the file, and it's looking like a pretty quick install. So let's see, what do we need to do? You need to fill out the form, download page, click, that stuff. Click download here. Then we're going to unzip it, and inside we're going to do some stuff. So that's great. So this is going to finish in like 8 seconds. So what we're going to do afterward is we're just going to unzip it. We're going to apt-get update, which I'm not actually going to do because you know what? Why don't I do it? Why not? I guess. It's just going to update our stuff. So we're going to extract this. This is our freshly downloaded community edition, and it's going to have all the stuff we need to install Vector. Hopefully everything is going well. It's a little bit small, but you can see. So this is the folder. So I'm going to open a terminal in here, and let's do the apt-get update, whatever. If it takes too long, I'll just pause the video or edit it out, maybe. So sudo apt-get update. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. Great. It didn't take long at all because I did a fresh install with, downloading everything. So, wow, this is kind of long. You can't see very nicely. So we're going to sudo apt-get install. Let's just copy and paste it, actually. I don't even know why I'm typing. You never type in programming. Always try to copy and paste. So this is going to install liba1 and that was really quick. And now that we're in this terminal, we are going to sudo /install.sh. So again, we're in the downloaded community edition folder, and they've got this install script that's going to handle everything for us. We're not even going to worry about it. We're just going to run it, and it shouldn't take too long. So it's going to ask us for a new password. So this is creating a new Linux account for our Ubuntu, because that's what is going to be, accessing the database. It's a user named Actian. So I hope I typed the password named password. That's going to be my password. Press Y to continue. Do we accept? Yes. Did we read it? No. I'm pressing spacebar to go through the agreement. Yes. And it's going to install some stuff. I don't know how long this is going to take, but I don't think it takes too long. So again, what we did was we installed libao. We are using this install.sh script that we downloaded from the Actian Community Edition that we just downloaded, and we are just letting it run. So I'm going to pause the video while this runs. I actually don't think this is going to take too much time, but I don't want to waste anyone's time. And what we're going to do next, actually, I'll just talk about it next. So what we're going to do is we are going to have this Actian user, and it's going to be the one to facilitate using the database. And it's going to take a few tricks to actually work, because we're logged into srcmake. That's our user right now, but we have this new Actian user that's going to be working with the database. So it's going to take a few tricks. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to actually make it a sudo user using this command. Hopefully it works. I hope it works. If not, we have some issues. Then in the terminal, we're going to create a new terminal. Actually, let's do that right now. So I like to access terminals this way too sometimes. It's one of the most important icons you can use. We are going to make a terminal that is logged in as that user. Right now we're logged into srcmake in this terminal, but you'll see how that works. And then we are going to, you'll see what we do. So while this downloads, I'm just going to pause. So pause. So we're still in the installation, and it's asking for a password, so I'm just going to enter another password. I think this is for the database user, but I'm just making it the same one. And so we're done. The installation is complete. We now have Actian on our computer. We also have this Actian user that we are going to use this command to make a sudo user. Oh, permission denied. All right. Well, I guess we don't need it right now. We might not need it. I might edit it out of the tutorial in this video. Okay, so great. So right now in this terminal, we are logged in as Actian. You see how we switched from srcmake to Actian? Let me make that a little bit. Should I make that bigger? How long is this going to take? Seems pretty bad. Let's make the command scrolling compatibilities color. Oh, here it is. Custom font. Let's make this like let's make it 16. Okay, that's super huge, but that's perfect. So you see that we switched from srcmake, the user, to Actian, because Actian is what we're going to be doing everything from. So what we need to do now that we're logged into Actian is we need to source a certain file. And what we're going to do is we're going to cd to this, and we're going to do lsal to see everything that's inside the home directory for Actian. And you'll see that Actian has a ing.ing vwsh file in it. And we're just going to source it. And what this does is it starts Ingress, I think. And what that means is it just starts the database, the service that is going to run our database. So every time you want to use Vector, you need to do the source home directory vwsh script. And just to make sure that it works, you type ing start. And Vector is already running. But if you turn the computer off and you turn it back on, it might be off. So that's the command you use. So that's installing Actian. That's it. We installed Vector. So good job to us. Now what we want to do is we want to download the dataset. So the way we do that is we're going to click this link right here. It's going to take us to Actian's website. And what we want to do, I believe, is we want to go to community projects for the product. You can see a little bit. Let's scroll down a little more. And why don't we zoom in a little more too, just to make sure that everything's clear. So you're going to click community projects from the link. You're going to click datasets. And as I mentioned in the first video, we're going to click Linux x86. And in the first video, we said we're going to work with some airplane data, 30 years worth, big data. It's 5.5 gigs. We're going to download it, and this is going to take some time. Oh, we need to log in. So let me make sure. Let me log in. we registered for the ID, that's what we're going to use before. So in the first video, we had to register for an ID. That's what this is. Let me get my password really quickly. I have it stored on my phone in a memo pad. My Actian ID. And of course, if you don't have one, just register. It's free, completely easy. Just, oh, I thought I was typing, but I guess not. That kind of sucks. Is this the right password? Cross your fingers. Yeah, you can save, cache it, whatever. Okay, so srcmake 1, logged in, lets us download. Is the download going to begin? It does. We're going to save the file, and the download is beginning. So this is going to be big data. As I said, it's 5.5 gigs. I'm going to pause the video while this downloads, and when it's done, we are going to unzip it and do some other stuff to work with it. So pause. Okay, so the data set just finished downloading, and we are going to unzip it. You can see inside that it's just a bunch of CSV files and 2 script files. So Actian sort of helped us out, and you'll see how that works in a bit. Let's go back to the downloads folder because that's where it downloaded to, and we don't need the Actian Vector Community Edition anymore, so I'm just going to delete it. What we do need is this on-time files, the data set, the bunch of CSV files. We want to unzip it. So let's go ahead and unzip it right here into the downloads folder. This is going to take a little bit. So again, I'm going to pause the video and we're going to come back to this because we don't need this stuff anymore. Let's go ahead and clear this out. So we downloaded the data set and now we are going to unzip it. And then in the next section, we're going to see how we actually load this data set into Actian Vector. But for now, we need to unzip it. It's a lot of data. It's going to take some time. So once again, pause. Okay, so we're down to our last remaining files. It just finished. And again, we had the data set. It had a bunch of CSV files in it. We unzipped it. We don't need the zip file anymore, so I'm just going to delete it. And it came with a bunch of these CSV files. Let's open one up just to see what it looks like, the data inside. I have a picture of it here on the website, but we can open it ourselves. And you'll see that it's just a bunch of CSV files that got extracted. And there is a loadall.sh file, which we are going to look at in a second. So once again, the data set is just a bunch of CSV files, but we want to load this into a database, right? Because, it's not useful just to have the CSV files. This whole thing is about being a database. So in our Actian terminal, while we're waiting, we are going to, let's get to the website and see what's going on. We are going to, in our Actian terminal, still logged in as Actian, we are going to cd to home srcmake downloads because that is where all the action's happening. That's where everything got unzipped. So press enter. There's no srcmake. Why not? That's weird. Let's cd. Oh no, I forgot the semicolon for the /home. So always remember to go to root, guys. So cd home srcmake downloads. I gotta change this. And we are now where the action's happening, right here with all the CSV files. So did this load? It doesn't look like it loaded yet. It's a lot of rows. It's a lot of rows, actually. So we've got, actually, let's close this for a second. Let's not look at it yet. So we've got, we're in the directory, but we want to actually make a database for the the database. It's SQL, so you've got all these rows of data in a table, but this table exists inside of a database. So let's create that now. So since ing start, this stuff we did before is still running, we can actually just create DB with that command. So ing, the service is going to recognize that create DB is talking about vector, and we are going to create a database named onTimeDB, simply like that. And it's going to create it. That's going to take a little bit. Let's see, how is our data looking. It's taking a while to load still, which is expected. It's a lot of rows, actually. We've got a bunch of these. So onTimeDB is successfully created. Now, how do we access this database? Well, the way that I like to access it, actually, is going to be like this. So it says touch command.sql. I don't think that's going to work because this is Actian. Let's try it. Touch command.sql. And it's going to say permission denied because, remember, our user that we're logged in right now to Ubuntu is srcmake, but we're using this foreign guy, Actian, in this terminal, so he doesn't have certain permissions to make files in other people's directories, which is why we're just going to do it normally like this. So let's delete this and redo it. So just right-click inside the directory since we're working in it, an empty document. We're going to name it command.sql. And we're going to open it up. And if this ever loads, you'll see, come on, oh, here it is up here in the library calc. So this is what our data set looks like. We've got year, quarter, month, data of month, etc. Just a bunch of boring data. Well, not boring, but it's just a bunch of data, a bunch of rows, and that is what we want in our table. So these are going to be the column names, right, in SQL for the table. And I've got this conveniently right here on the data on the website. So we're going to use the standard SQL command, create table, and the table name is going to be on time. And we've got each of these column names, year, and that's going to be an integer, quarter is going to be an integer, etc., etc. So go ahead and copy that. And one thing you'll notice at the end of this is we end with a /g. You can see it. That /g indicates the end of a vector SQL command. Semicolons don't do it. I like to include semicolons anyway, but we're going to copy that and paste it into command.sql because that's the SQL command we're going to use to create the table. Because again, we created the database, but now we need this table inside of it with all of our columns. And then we're going to load the data, the CSV files, actually into that table. So that's what we're doing right now. Sounds a little weird, but that's what you got to do with databases. So how do we actually run this command? Well, we're going to do it with this command. So we're going to say SQL, and ingress is started right now. So it's, again, you see how this ing starts right here? That means that there are a bunch of commands that are just going to go straight to vector because we're logged in as Actian and it knows, the service knows. So we're going to say SQL, and then we're going to point to onTimeDB because that's the database we want to perform this command on. And we're going to pipe in the actual file with the SQL command. So again, we said command.sql was going to have this createDB query, and we saved that in there, and now we're going to run it, and that's it. So we created the table that is, that the onTimeDB table, the on-time table in onTimeDB. So how do we make sure that it works? Well, let's SQL into a shell just to see how this works in a different way instead of doing it by file. So SQL onTimeDB, you do it like that. And now we're in this SQL shell where you can just do the SQL command yourself without doing a file. So let's copy this one in right here. Select rows from onTime, and we end it with the /g. And of course, we have 0 rows right now because it's an empty table. But if you scroll up enough, you'll see that we have all the column names right there. So our table exists. And then to get out of this shell, you type /q like that. And that's it. That's how you use SQL. But we've got this data set that we want to work with, right? How do we actually load the CSV files into the actual table? Well, luckily, Actian, when they zipped up this data set and made it for us to download, they had this loadall.sh file. And what this is going to do is it's going to use this vw-load command, which again is just one of those things that works because ingress is running. And it's got all this stuff in it. It's going to say, okay, we've got this onTimeDB, we've got this table named onTime, and we've got these CSV files. We're going to just load them in like that. And that's how you load files in with this command. So there's a bunch more documentation right here. I think this link will take you there. Yes, so the methods for loading data, you can just, go through these if you want to do that. But for this data set, they set it up for us, so let's use it. So what we're going to do simply in this terminal right here, again, we're just going to run the code. So source loadall.sh, and it's going to run, and it's going to take all of these CSV files, and it's going to load them into the on-time table inside of the on-time database, onTimeDB. And you can see that this is how it works. It's loading. So it says processed 422,000 records from one of the CSV files. There were 0 errors. And it's going to recursively do this because you saw what the shell script looks like. It's going to do this for each one of these year files. So that is going to take some time, and, it's just going to load up. So I'm going to pause the video while this happens. I don't know how long this is going to take. I might, just take a break and wait for this to finish. So this is going to take a little bit because, again, it's a big data set. So once we're done with this, we'll just make sure that everything worked, that the CSV files actually got loaded with a couple of commands, and then we're going to look into querying the database from the command line in a little bit more depth, and then that's it for the installation and checking of the data. So we're almost done. We just got to wait for the data set to load in for this particular tutorial. So we're going to pause the video here and wait for it to finish. So thanks. Not thanks like done. Like, okay, pause. Okay, so we're in the home stretch. So our data set loaded into Vector, and you can see that it finished. There was a lot. It finished like an hour and 15 minutes ago, and you can see that there was like one error where wheels off was a string, but I think it was trying to convert to numeric or something like that. So the whole record didn't show up, and I wanted to show that. I knew that was going to happen, but just be sure that your column types are what they are supposed to be. So we have all the data inside of the table now, and we just want to check how it works, like just make sure that it works. So we are going to SQL. Oh no, that was a mistake. So let's SQL into OnTimeDB into the database. And now we're into the SQL session. So the first thing that we're going to do is select count, which is going to show that we have this many rows. Let's see. Thousands, millions, 164 million rows, which is a lot. It took like an hour or something like that. And now we're just going to show the top 5 rows, just select 5 of them just to make a query. And you see that happened pretty quick for 165 million. And it's formatted like really badly because there are 110 columns actually in this. So let's type /q to get out of here. So we verified that the data loaded in correctly. So now it's right here locally on our on-time table inside of our on-time-db. Now what we want to do is just query from the command line and just check. We saw how we could take a command that was inside of a file and execute it in the command line. But we can actually output the results. We don't have to, just get it from the terminal. We can output it to a file, and that's what we're going to do now. So what we're going to do is we are going to we're going to create a new file named query.sql, and we're going to add 2 queries to it. And the 2 queries that we're going to add are right here. And it's going to select the count where canceled does not equal 0. So the flight went through, it didn't get canceled. And then another query where the flight did get I guess canceled equals 0, which means that it didn't get canceled. Or it did, I don't know. You can figure it out yourself. But this is like one of the types of things that you want to visualize. Have to do some thinking on it later. So in the terminal, we are going to go ahead and use this command, SQL OnTimeDB. Now this /s means that you see this extra like garbage that's around here. It's kind of mean to call it garbage, but like this extra stuff that shows up, we don't want to see that. We just want to see the actual results. So we are going to just get rid of this and just output the direct SQL response. We are going to, I have to change this. I think we need to change this to query.sql because that's what we changed it. I have to update the tutorial. So query.sql, I can't spell correctly. And we're going to output that with this, this symbol to home Actian out.txt. Now this is a bit important. Remember, we're logged in as Actian in this terminal, but overall we are in srcmake, and we don't have total privileges here. So we're working in srcmake's directory and that uses, but we want to output it to Actian's directory because that's the only place you can actually write the file to. So you do that, and it's really quick, just the output of the command. So let's go to it, home, and we're going to Actian, and we are going to out.txt. We're going to see what's inside, and this was the number of not canceled flights and the number of canceled flights, or vice versa. I don't remember exactly. So yeah, that's it. So that's all you need to do to actually query the database. We saw how to do it with the shell. We can output it to a file. And what's next? So next up, we are going to actually try to visualize this data with the visualization dashboard. We saw how to use it with SQL, and now we're going to try to just use it and, make some nice insights with the data to make it look pretty with a dashboard. And in a few more blog posts, we are going to try to use AWS and Azure. So keep an eye out for that. So this has been kind of a long video, but that's how you install Vector. You load some data into Vector, and then you can query the data with all sorts of SQL, just common SQL. You saw how to do it. So I'm srcmake. Feel free to hit the subscribe button and do look out for the other videos. They're not done yet, but I'm working on them.